Hi, everyone, and welcome into Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. I know there's a lot going on in the banking world right now with the second round of PPP going on. And so, certainly to everybody out there that's working and dealing with all that, my friends over at Enterprise Bank, appreciate them and the partnership that I have with Enterprise. Hashtag no stopping you. Also, want to let everybody know about Casey Cattle Company, Wagyu beef right up in Weston, Missouri, veteran owned and operated. They're local. These guys have served our country, led by Patrick Montgomery, former Army Ranger. And the good news is they deliver. They'll drive it down to Kansas City. They also deliver to all 50 states. It's a staple in the Goldberg house, and we look forward to those deliveries when we get them. So check them out at CaseyCattleCompany.com. You can also see what's going on their social media. They've got a really nice presence there. I enjoy their Instagram feed. Most importantly, enjoy that Wagyu beef. We are all living right now in a world that is different. We know that. And we're all, I think, like, who's not sitting in front of a computer right now? Who is not dealing with internet, dealing with technology? If you're not and you're unplugged, well, one, I'm not speaking to you because you're not watching this right now. And two, that's actually pretty impressive. But most of us are staring right into these cameras, and we're doing all of our work and spending probably too much of our life in this world. And I don't know that that's a good segue or a bad segue to my guest, but I am joined right now by the president of the Purple Guys, John Schram, who has lived in this world for a very long time. And IT, yes. I think John is always in demand, but maybe more so than ever. I knew you'd have the purple shirt on today. I would love one day to see you in something other than purple. I don't know that that's possible, or maybe that's on the weekends. But first and foremost, how are you doing? How are you doing right now?
I'm doing great. The family's adjusted, so this is my spare bedroom at home. So they're not used to me being home day in and day out, especially my 19-year-old son, who would way rather be being a freshman at Baylor University than hanging out in his bedroom here. So online school has not been a huge plus from his standpoint. And my 16-year-old daughter is trying to figure out if the DMV is actually open today because she'd like to go get her unrestricted driver's license. So we're surviving.
Yeah, that sounds kind of familiar. We've got a little bit of that going on too. We actually were having that discussion about the DMV with my 14-year-old last night. I don't know the answer to it, so I don't have any answers for you. And then we've got a 17-year-old, and it's the same thing. Not college classes yet, but they're making their changes, they're making their adjustments. And before we get into what you guys are doing and how your world has changed, the question that everybody asks, and so I'll ask it so everybody says, "Wait a minute, what's the Purple Guys anyway? What are they selling? What's purple? So give the audience that's watching and listening right now a little bit of background on a question you answer, I'm sure, every day. The Purple Guys."
Yes, well, the Purple Guys actually came about. Our customers named it. As you can see, I'm wearing purple. I actually do wear purple every day. I'm pretty sure my 16-year-old has never seen me in anything but purple. 21-year-old, if she remembers far enough back, she would not. She could remember non-purple, but Purple Guys, we support 176 small businesses in Kansas City. We are their outsourced IT department, and as you mentioned earlier, everybody is working from home, and we had a tidal wave of work as this thing first rolled out, setting up people to work from home. So if they didn't have a VPN, if they didn't have a laptop, if they didn't know how to connect to Zoom or any of those things, we had an absolute tidal wave of work for about a week and a half, and it was challenging. But I will say that Kansas City and our customers had a lot of grace, so they understood we were overwhelmed for a bit. We got through the tidal wave of work, and things have kind of stabilized into a new normal. But troubleshooting, getting logged in remotely was our number one ticket for a couple of weeks in a row.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that because you guys have always live in that world in terms of IT, in terms of troubleshooting. I would imagine that in that world, there are always problems that you're solving. This is another layer of it, or at least it's more magnified because everyone is going through this at the same time. So how I don't know if it was stressful or not, but how much of a change was this for your group to suddenly have so many of your customers potentially needing help today, right now, or whenever that moment was?
That was really the issue. We've always set people to work up from remotely or to work remotely. There's always been a handful at every single customer, whether it was the traveling sales staff or the executive team. There was always a handful of people that have been set up to work remotely. The big shift was that, for a 50-person company that might usually have 5 people working remotely, all of a sudden it was all 50. And as fast as we could possibly get to them all, getting them all set up and running. So we did a lot of procedure writing. We did a lot of hand holding. We talked to a lot of home internet providers. And I'm sure there were some choice words for some of their VPN providers and connectivity speeds. But we got through all of that. But we're used to supporting people remotely. We got customers in, I think it's 12 different countries in almost every state right now, just in terms of where their employees are based. The preponderance of our customers are headquartered in Kansas City or they're headquartered in St. Louis, but they've got far-flung employees kind of all around the place.
So what are some of the challenges then beyond the one obvious for the average person, the person sitting at home right now that's annoyed with their internet or the Wi-Fi? Let's get past all that. We all know that we need connectivity and, call your cable or service provider or whatever it is. And we've all dealt with some form or another with that. In terms of business, in terms of safety, in terms of precautions, and maybe ones that might be different now versus say they were the way they were pre-COVID-19, go back to February or whatever. What's changed?
Yeah. The thing that's changed is that everybody is on, and you're more apt to click on something now, I think, than you were when you were sitting in your office. There's this, if you're sitting in your office, I don't know if there's just a natural tendency to be more careful and or more skeptical. But what I would caution people, and we have seen a huge uptick in it, is just malicious email scams. The government's sending out checks. That's real. They're sending out checks. They're not going to send it to you in an email link. It's not going to happen. Don't click on it. That normally happens around tax time anyway, is that, click here to get your refund. Like, the government has never had a click here to get your refund button. Like, that's not a thing. But those emails come every year and people click on them every year. So just being aware, and just because you're, kind of more relaxed working from home, know what it is that's in front of you on the screen. It's the same blocking and tackling it's always been there. Make sure you got a good antivirus program. Make sure you got a good web filter. If you are connecting to your corporate resources, if you haven't heard the term VPN, that's virtual private network. It's a secure connection point to point between you and your office. We set a lot of those up as well. But just being aware and kind of not letting your guard down. And the annoying thing is, anytime there's something you can take advantage of, the bad guys will. And this is just ripe for opportunity to trick people into clicking on a bad link of, here's all the top 10 things you need to do to stay safe from COVID. All you got to do is enter your social security number to get access to it. Like, that's not a thing. It's never going to be a thing. But people still will click on stuff. And again, you're more comfortable at home and you're more apt to click on some of those things. So just being aware that the bad guys have not stopped being bad is something to be wary of.
I don't know how the bad guys do with social distancing. Actually, they probably do pretty well with that, actually. But they see opportunity, right? And so I always say, like, in terms of sports, we always have over the course of time, the different cheating scandals, and there was the steroid era for a while, and all that type of stuff. Cheaters are never going to stop cheating, or when they're figured out, it's a cat and mouse game. So that never ends, right? I mean, that's what, among other things, keeps people like you in business, is keeping people safe, because they're not going to just stop. And they're not going to take a break because the countries or the world is going through a pandemic. So some of this is common sense, right? When you are asked for your social security number or anything that you wouldn't be comfortable giving out to people, don't do it. In terms of people, whether it's individuals or companies right now, are having to do a lot of business through the house without the protection of what they might have in the office. And
Yeah.
whether that is dealing with some banking or filing or applying for, a loan or unemployment or whatever it might be, there's a tendency, I think, and you hit on this a little bit, to maybe let your guard down at home and just to go do it. So
Yeah.
how important is that VPN or whatever levels of protection that you're talking about?
I mean, it's critical to stay safe. And the issue with connectivity and whatever you're connecting to, if you haven't done any, the term is security awareness training. There's some free links on our website. We've published them. We've been trying to get it out. There's a company called Know Before. They do security awareness training. It's one of the things we sell. But they've got a free one targeted at families, and I believe it's 8 or 10 modules, and it will walk you through the different scenarios of what do you look for. So when you're on a website, do you know it's secure or not? Secure or not? What do you look for? You look for that little padlock icon in the upper left-hand corner. You look for HTTPS for security. And even when those things are there, it's no guarantee it's going to be a completely safe website, but just every one of those little things to notice. Same thing when it comes to email. You hover over a link just because it looks like it came from the president of your company. It might not have. It's really easy to just fill in the blank with somebody's name, but the link actually goes somewhere else. Just being aware of the things to watch out for. And again, it's if it seems too good to be true, or someone is reaching out to you that normally wouldn't, if the CFO of the company doesn't normally call you to do a wire transfer, they're not doing it now either. And again, we see that it happens. And that's the danger side of this, is that you let your guard down. You're more relaxed when you're at home. So we always recommend people change their passwords every 90 days. And yes, it's a royal pain because you got to remember the new password. But changing your passwords on a regular basis is a really important thing to do. They used to be really stringent about having all the weird characters and spaces and stuff in a password. But the most important thing is actually the length of the password. So pick 5 or 6 random words, something that means something to you. Like elephant, umbrella, football, something you can remember that's a string of words that's a long character string, and that's a way harder password to crack. So those are just some of the basics, and it's the same basics that they always have been, whether you're in your office or not. The things that are easier to enforce when you're in the office is forcing people to change a password because they're on a corporate network. You can do some of that when you go to this is basically everybody working in the cloud now. And some of that can still be standardized in the cloud, and that's part of what we try to help educate people
on. From my standpoint, personally, and I'm not trying to do advertisements for companies. I don't even know who these people are, but for probably, I'd say about 5 years, my family, we've used an app or a program called 1Password. I know there are a bunch of them out there.
Yes.
So, because I remember for me, I used to have, like a little page of notes, or it was probably before notes were in your iPhone or your phone, and I'd go into the file and I'd have like little passwords that I wrote out for every single thing, and most of them were the same. What I like about 1Password is, and I do need to think about changing every 90 days, is that they just give you a random password, then you copy and paste it in, or sometimes it syncs right to it. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. It might be 14, 16 characters, and there's a symbol in there and all that kind of stuff. I would imagine that's one of the safer ways to do it.
That is absolutely one of the safer ways to do that. And there's a ton of great tools out there, and they're either free or really, really inexpensive for password management. And they'll either generate the password for you, or they'll suggest a password, and just making sure you're not using the same password to log into your Panera Bread company account that you're using for your bank. And again, it's when websites get hacked, when the Target thing happens, when Equifax gets hacked, those passwords are now available. So if you were using the same password for your Target points that you're using to log into your bank account, the bad guys now have that password as one of the passwords they're going to try. So using a password manager is a huge thing to do, to keep different passwords for the different sites, because And unless you're Rain Man, you're not going to remember all those passwords.
Yeah, I don't remember any of them, and
Yeah.
but now by design, I would say this, that for some of the ones that involve no money transactions, even something less than a Panera,
Yeah.
just a website to log into, whatever it is, that might be something that
Mhm.
I come up with a couple of standard. Okay, I'll remember that
Yeah.
one, but there's nothing at stake in that one. So I
Yeah.
always sort of feel like if there's anything that someone could get their hands on,
Mhm.
let's have it be something unique. That's just on a
Yeah.
personal level. I mean, when we start talking
Yeah.
about companies and everything that they're trying to protect, there's obviously a lot on the line here. I want to get back to
Yeah.
something that you said about putting content out on your website, and
Mhm.
and you and I've talked a little bit about that beforehand too. I see so many, and I'm trying to do the same, just so many people, companies
Mhm.
trying to just go out there and help others.
Yeah.
How important has that been? How much of your strategy has been involved in just say, hey, you know what? Right now, we're going to offer this to whoever wants to take it as a way to help out and
Yeah.
maybe build those relationships that way.
That's absolutely how we see our communication right now. I mean, nobody wants to be sold to right now. They want answers to what's going on. Nobody really can predict the future. We have no idea when this thing's going to really open back up, and really what it's going to look like when it does open up. So the things we've tried to put out there during this time period have been, again, like if there's free security training tools that are out there, if there's, when we very first did the lockdown, it's what are the easiest ways to do the online meetings. Like people had not heard of Zoom before. Zoom was offering stuff for free. So Zoom, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, LogMeIn, all of those tools had a free option. We consolidated them all into one blog post and stuck it on our website. Again, we don't get anything from any of those companies. We're just trying to facilitate communication to make it easier to operate right now. And I tell my staff this every single staff meeting. We have a staff meeting every Wednesday, that the work we do always matters, and it matters even more now. That the technical stuff working right now in this time period isn't just about the business side of things going. It's about the personal connection side. And even if you have never turned your webcam on before this whole thing happened, which I think a lot of my staff doesn't really like to turn their webcams on, but we make them turn their webcam on because you've got to have some kind of face-to-face interaction. And so the content that we're putting out is we're trying to put out as many free resources. If we come across something that's great and we think applies either to business or just the community in general, we're trying to put that out there as a resource. And again, we try to vet it because you can't just throw everything against the wall. So we try to consolidate, put a quick tips together and stick that out there on all of our various channels.
Well, it's your reputation too. I mean, you don't want to throw out a suggestion and then suddenly it's, well, the purple guys told me to and it didn't work out. So obviously that's,
Yeah.
that makes sense. But you guys
Yeah.
are the experts in the field, so you understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not asking for a recommendation in terms of which one of these services is best, and I don't think that's fair to put you on the spot like that. But are they all pretty similar? Are there a lot of differences between them? I mean, we are all, as a society, and I suspect this is around the world, much more familiar with Zoom. I mean, Zoom has
Yeah.
kind of become the Netflix of communication, right?
Yeah.
And Google's got theirs, and you mentioned some of the other
Yeah.
ones too, Microsoft. That I think in some ways we have to learn more than one of them because you run into a company or a meeting and they're
Yeah.
using this. And like for me right now, I've been doing a ton of stuff on Zoom. Well, I'm doing something with a company tomorrow that's doing their stuff with Google Meet. There's some differences with those. So
Yeah.
are they all similar? Are they all kind of doing the same things and that's the first question. The second question is, I suspect that they've all been at this a while. We just didn't know it.
Yeah. Yeah. They've definitely all been at it a while. And so the short answer is functionally, they're all very, very similar. It's just, as with everything, it's the nuances, it's the little bells and whistles. I mean, when Zoom came out, they hit the news pretty rapidly with people being able to Zoom bomb, or I don't remember what they actually called it, but uninvited guests coming into your meeting, and so they fixed that. and they had a corporate program that was not even possible with the corporate level, but the residential / personal side of Zoom had that as an opening. And so they fixed it, and all the companies will scramble to fix those holes. But from a functional standpoint, they all do very similar things. They let you do the call. Most of them will allow you to record it for later viewing, which I think is awesome from a training perspective. So if you had never thought about doing video training for your company in the past, everybody's got a platform they can use now. And we're starting to do that now with our customers, is recording things and then sending them out as a video, as opposed to just a white paper that we used to do in the past. The different platforms, some people, if you've heard of Microsoft Office 365, that platform actually comes with something called Teams. Teams is very similar to Zoom. A lot of people didn't realize that they had that in a package they were already paying for. So we've helped educate folks on how to make use of that. And again, right now, it's just, the things that'll help you stay communicating effectively, keep you plugged in with your team. And whether it's the messaging side of the app or the video side of the app, how, is it 1 click or 2 clicks, or how hard is it to set up a meeting? All those things, it's going to depend on what you want to standardize on. But yeah, I think when we come out of the backside of this, there's not going to be one dominant player that controls them all. But they're all going to interact with one another.
Where does this go in the future when this all calms back down, and when this pandemic is over, and maybe it comes back, as we've heard, but eventually it will be gone, and maybe we have a vaccine, and everything returns to whatever the new normal is? What is the new normal in the world of IT and in the world of this right here?
Yeah. The new normal in the world of IT is that we just fast forwarded, I think, about 12 to 24 months in terms of remote work and cloud adoption. So essentially what we're doing right now is leveraging the cloud. Most businesses in some way, shape, or form had leveraged a piece of the cloud, but they didn't really truly understand it. As soon as you shove everybody home, you push them outside of your 4 walls, essentially they're all cloud users. The cloud might be the server that lives back in your office, but all cloud means is it's somewhere other than you are that you're accessing. So this fast forwarded everybody into, hey, I think the cloud might work. Now, there's some people that their experience going through this is, heck no, I don't want to use the cloud. This was terrible. But I think the most part of society, we've gotten past that stigma of remote work, remote data, remote access. That exists now. We've proven we can do it. And I think a huge chunk of that is going to stick. So I think there's going to be less corporate business travel. I think that's going to be a reality coming out of this. I think there's going to be people that don't want to get on a plane anyway, but we've proven you can have effective meetings remotely with multiple people. I've got a small business CEO group that we get together. There's 14 of us in the group, and we were hesitant to ever try to do a remote, web only meeting, but we've been doing incredibly effective meetings almost on a weekly basis now. So it's changed that dynamic. So I think the remote working is going to stick. I think there's going to be more flexibility from a staffing and recruiting perspective. You're going to be able to have people be really plugged in as part of your team with the tools that now exist and people are comfortable using. So I think those are the main things from the technology standpoint. And we're just going to have to get used to, asking, all right, where are you in terms of where are you working from, versus assuming they're inside the 4 walls of their company.
Yeah, and you have that group that you meet with, and you're saving now once a week. I don't know, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes in
drive time. Yeah.
Right. And it might sound stupid, but then you have to park, then you have to walk in, and then and so now I'm not saying that the face-to-face or the handshake is dead. I think that'll still be there, but it is an interesting option. And I think we're going to see a lot of that, which leads me as we start to wind down here to some of your employees, because you talked about how they may not want to be on camera. A lot of people in the IT world, maybe some of them are watching right now, but I don't say this in a bad way. We're all wired differently. So we've always thrown everybody into sort of one bucket and said, okay, this is the way we do things. But some people are extroverted, some people are introverted, some people want to be around those big crowds, some people are fine, just put my head down, let me in my cubicle and get my work done. So how has this all affected your employees, and have they been able to adjust? And I'm guessing not everybody. You can't lump every single one of your
Yeah.
employees and having the same personality. I say this about a baseball locker room, a clubhouse all the time. Every walk of life is in there. They happen to be living crazy circumstances, being professional athletes. We have introverts, we have extroverts, we have guys speaking different languages, we have guys that are awesome, we have some every now and then that aren't as good as guys. We're pretty lucky here with the Royals by design, the way they've built these teams. The point is that in any office place, no matter what you do, you will have different types of personalities. But I think that in the world that you live in, you're more likely to have those that are okay being in their home. What have these adjustments been like for them?
The biggest adjustment is the day-to-day communication. We primarily have kind of a bullpen setting for most of our staff in our office, where you can just turn around and talk to people, pick their brain about, hey, there's this weird thing I'm seeing on the screen. Can you take a look? So we've had to adapt that. But there's so many communication tools. You can instant message and back and forth, that we're able to work around those things. The big flexibility for me, and I think for our staff, is, you talked about drive time earlier. Everybody's commute now is 0. So all that windshield time, you got that back. So there's a little bit more of a relaxed feel to the, hey, I'm not rushing to get to the office and frantically fighting traffic. So I think that's a plus. I think for our team, we were always set up that, if there was an ice storm that came into town, we would just work from remote anyway. So we had already phased into having people work remotely when the big wave hit. So when that wave hit, I was so incredibly proud at how they really just pulled together and gelled as a team, used all of the tools that we had available to make sure we stayed on top of. It really was a tidal wave of people requesting connectivity, and we learned to use the tools that we'd already had. We just really adopted them. So I think the backside of this is going to be, we're going to have more flexibility in who comes and goes to the office. Even if the restrictions were 100% lifted, I think we're going to change some of that in our culture. But in terms of the adaptability, I would say my sales staff would way like more FaceTime, actual FaceTime, sitting down. And most of my tech staff, this is productive. Like the tools that they're using now, whether they're using them from home or they were using them when they were sitting in the office, are pretty much the same. We're a tech support company, so most of the tech support we do is over the phone. It's remote connections. I don't know that we'd ever done a video call with a customer prior to this, and I don't know how many we're actually doing via video, but that's absolutely something that I'm going to look into adding as a core part of what we offer, because I think it helps. It helps to be able to see the person you're talking to as opposed to just hearing the voice on the phone. I
agree. Your tech staff is saying, welcome to our world for the rest of us that had been living there. And so, and then they already understand how well this can run. Two final questions. First off, I ask all of my guests, or most of my guests, what is small ball? What are the little things that add up to the big things? What are the singles and the sacrifices that add up to the home runs in the world of the Purple Guys?
The little things for us is each and every time we're interacting, it's not about the technology. It's about the person sitting behind the keyboard. And we've got roughly 6,000 employees across the 176 companies we deal with that depend on us. And the small ball to us is one person sends in a request, whether that they pick up the phone and call, they send an email. It's how we respond to that. And can we address that individual's need in a way that they get it? Because technology is confusing to a lot of people. So part of our job is to be that technical translator. So can we get it so that they get it? Can we explain it, make it work? And a lot of times the technology isn't the thing that's not working. It's, something wasn't turned on. The sequence of events wasn't quite correct. It's just explaining that. And when you're able to do that for someone, you empower them to use the stuff that their company has invested on. They have a better day. They're going to be in a better mood. Right now that's going to affect their household as opposed to just their work environment. That's the small ball for us. We've always focused on that customer interaction and measuring that. And we've consistently been about 97, 98% positive for all of our customers. So that's something we really pride ourselves on is that individual attention.
Well said. Important, I think, no matter what industry you're in. Final question for you, John. What's next in terms of, and I'm sure you haven't addressed every single issue because people are going to have issues. Your customers are going to have issues every single day. But let's just say that over the last few weeks, you've been able to get everyone settled. You've been able to work some of these kinks out. What are you looking at next coming ahead here? As you said, we don't know how long this is going to last. So what's on the agenda? What's on the forefront for you right now?
The next wave for us is going to be the transition back. And anytime there's a change in the stuff you're using, whether it's your brand new cell phone or the laptop has now only been used at home, now it's coming back into the office. We're going to have another wave. I think it's going to be a slow trickle as opposed to a tsunami. So that's going to be good, but it's just people transitioning back to what the new normal looks like. It might be 2 weeks on, 1 week at home, whatever that is, but we're ready to handle that. And it's, people plugging back into the traditional corporate network as they slowly come back to going back to the office.
Well, if you guys have handled the tsunami, the trickle should be easier. And so I think we are all ready for that to happen whenever it is and whatever it looks like. So you can get a hold of the Purple Guys. You see the website, purpleguys.com, up on the screen. And John, this is really informative. It applies to, I think it always applied to everybody, but more so than ever because it's front of mind no matter what you do with all of us every single, even if it's that family Zoom or whatever it is that is going on. My dad, by the way, fell asleep on a family Zoom last night, which was amazing. It made me feel like I was back home growing up, and it's that time of day. Dad's going to fall asleep right now. So that was a first for sure. Hey, John, appreciate you spending the time with us here on Rounding the Base. Us, I mean, me, it's just me, but you know what I mean. I appreciate the conversation. Thanks for all you're doing, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. Really good stuff there from John Schram, the Purple Guys, and hope everyone's able to pull some knowledge out of that. There's certainly a lot to talk about. Once again, want to thank my sponsors, KC Cattle Company. You can check their social media feed at KC Cattle Company or their website, kccattlecompany.com. They deliver Wagyu beef right up in Weston, Missouri, veteran owned and operated. And a big thanks to my title sponsor, Enterprise Bank and Trust, hashtag no stopping you. We've got more coming up tomorrow. Really interesting conversation with Kathy Nelson of the Kansas City Sports Commission. Remember when that Big 12 tournament was canceled and then suddenly the sports world shut down? She was right in the middle of all of that, and her perspective is definitely an interesting one. So hope to catch you tomorrow. Please share this with your network. And thanks for watching Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust.